What's up guys, it's tech-raccoon back with another video, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the Behringer B1 versus the Behringer C1. So let's start off with the design of these microphones. So both microphones are made out of metal, except the Behringer C1 has the top part here made out of plastic. And this does make the microphone feel a little bit cheaper, but it's not a big problem and it's not really a big downside of this microphone. While the Behringer B1 is made entirely out of metal. Now as for the looks, they both have a nice design, but the Behringer B1 in my opinion has a much cleaner, simpler, just better looking design. I'm not a massive fan of the Behringer C1 for looks. I don't really like that it has a red LED on the front either, which lights up, but I do understand why they put that there, because it's a more budget-friendly microphone, so whoever's going to be buying this microphone probably would like to know if the microphone's on or not. So yeah, it's a helpful little light, but not something that I like particularly. Now if you look a little closer into the metal mesh on both these microphones, you'll notice that the Behringer C1 has some black foam inside it, while the Behringer B1 actually has no foam. You can just see straight into this capsule, which is a little bit of a downside on the Behringer B1, but in the box it does come with a massive pop filter, which I'm not actually using for this review because I want it to be very, very fair. So I'm going to be putting both into this little rig here with a shock mount and a metal mesh pop filter. But that is one benefit of the Behringer C1, that it does have one inbuilt, so it's a little bit less of a bulky setup. But with the windscreen that the Behringer B1 comes with, it has a much better plosive reduction. So now let me get on to the biggest difference between these two microphones. So the biggest difference is that the Behringer B1 has a large diaphragm capsule inside, and it's also a gold sputtered capsule, which means it has a little bit of gold on the capsule. But that's irrelevant for the point of this video because the Behringer C1 has a small diaphragm condenser capsule, meaning you're not going to get much warmth in the sound, and also you'll have a fair bit more noise in the recording. Now I won't really be able to demonstrate this because my room still has a lot of noise in it. For example, has the computer running, which gives a bit of fan noise, so you won't be able to get a good example of the lack of noise on the Behringer B1 and the bit more noise on the Behringer C1, but this difference is not actually that noticeable at all. The main noticeable difference is the fact that you get a much warmer sound on the Behringer B1, as you're about to hear. So let's get on with the sound test. For this whole video, you've been hearing the Behringer B1 about this distance away from my mouth, so a pretty short distance, and now I'm actually going to move the microphone a little bit further away, about a ruler's length, just like I did in my review of this microphone, so you can hear how they sound further away, because a lot of people like to use their microphones far away from them. Alright, I know it's not in the shot anymore, but that's just because the way the microphone's positioned and I don't want to redo the positioning of it. But anyway, it's about a ruler's length away from my mouth, and I can literally just move the camera to show you. There it is. And so it's a ruler's length away from my mouth, and the sound you can hear is actually surprisingly good considering it's this distance away from my mouth. But obviously you can hear the room echo and stuff, but it gives you an accurate representation of what your average person's room will sound like with this microphone. So now let's switch over to the Behringer C1 microphone, and I'll put it in the exact same rig with this pop filter and this shock mount. Alright, so now I have the Behringer C1 hooked up here, and as you can hear, it sounds very similar to the Behringer B1. But you will notice, if you listen to this comparison very closely, that the Behringer B1 has a much nicer, warmer, more pleasing sound, while the Behringer C1 has a harsher sound to it. That's what I've noticed as I've been comparing the two myself, because I really wanted to see what exactly was the difference, and I can definitely hear that the large diaphragm on the Behringer B1 makes a big difference when it comes to warmth and when it comes to the lack of harshness and just making it a very nice smooth sound to the voice, while this has a bit of a harsher sound. But at the end of the day, I'm really nitpicking because the sound from the Behringer C1 is very, very good, especially for that $60 Australian price tag. So I can't complain at all with this microphone for that price. Now let me move it further away, about a ruler's length. Alright, so now it's about a ruler's length away from my mouth, and as you can hear, it also sounds pretty decent, but I think we can all agree that the Behringer B1 sounds better from a far distance, but it's not really a big difference. At the end of the day, both of these microphones aren't meant to be used from a far distance anyway. So I'm going to switch back to the Behringer B1 for the rest of the video. Alright, now that I've got my Behringer B1 connected back together, let me talk about what I was actually using for this comparison in terms of audio interface / mixer. So what I'm using is the Behringer Q802 mixer with all the EQ set to the neutral setting, and yes, I've actually tested it with an interface just to see that it sounds the exact same, and yes it does. So this is the pure sound, it's not modified in any way, shape or form, and so the sound you can hear from both of these microphones is very, very good. But which one would I recommend? So for the $50 Australian price tag of the Behringer C1, if you only have $50, or you have the money for one of these, but you don't want to exactly spend it, you'd rather spend it on maybe a pop filter and a shock mount, then yes, I'd definitely go for the Behringer C1. But if you really want to get the best sound quality, and this sound quality is exceptional for the price, I'm very happy with it from the Behringer B1, then definitely go get it for that $130 Australian price tag of the Behringer B1. I really like the smoothness of this microphone and the warmth compared to the Behringer C1. It just really makes this the perfect microphone for me and for my voice. I really love the sound of this microphone. I've left links to both of these microphones in the description below, so feel free to use them. So hopefully you did enjoy this comparison. If you did, drop a like on the video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you didn't, drop a dislike on the video. And next week I'll be doing a comparison between the Behringer B1 and the Behringer XM8500, so stay tuned for that. So with all that out the way, I'll catch you guys in the next video.